Not all narcissists are the same, and understanding their spectrum is the key to your liberation. Wisdom session, the narcissist spectrum and the soul's path to or away from awakening. There is a truth that every awakened empath must eventually confront. Not all narcissists are the same. Not all came from the same blueprint. Not all operate from the same level of consciousness. And not all have the same capacity to change. To understand the empath narcissist entanglement, you must first understand the making of a narcissist. Because beneath every narcissist's armor is a child who learned one devastating lesson. Love is not earned through vulnerability. Love is secured through dominance, guilt, charm, entitlement, or chaos. This is the foundation of the false self. Not because they were born malicious, not because they intended to harm, but because their emotional environment taught them that authenticity was dangerous. Their real self was not welcomed. Their feelings were not mirrored. Their needs were not safe. Their sensitivity was not protected. So instead of learning how to open, they learned how to defend. Instead of learning how to connect, they learned how to control. Instead of learning how to relate, they learned how to perform. And the false self became their survival strategy. The arc of empathy, seeing the pain behind the pattern. Before we explore the spectrum, we begin with compassion. Not to excuse harm, but to understand it. Every narcissist learned early in life that emotional closeness is unsafe. They concluded that vulnerability invites pain. Honesty invites rejection. Softness invites shame. Authenticity invites abandonment. To survive, the ego created an alternative self, a self that was grand, untouchable, superior, or invulnerable. This false self is not confidence. It is camouflage. It is a shield designed to protect the child within from feeling annihilated by shame. This is why narcissists act the way they do, not to be cruel, but to avoid ego death. However, compassion does not mean naivety. Empathy does not mean denial, because not every narcissist remains the same. They evolve or devolve depending upon their level of awareness and willingness to face the shadow. This is the spectrum. Level 1, the unaware narcissist. This is the most common type. They are not intentionally malicious. They are emotionally underdeveloped. They genuinely believe their perspective is the truth. Their reactions are justified. Their partners are overly sensitive. Their entitlement is normal. Their manipulation is just how relationships work. This narcissist cannot see themselves, not because they refuse to, but because their ego structure does not allow it. Awareness would shatter their entire identity. So they remain blind, defensive, and childlike. They cause harm without recognizing that harm is happening. Not evil, just emotionally unformed. Level 2, the aware but unwilling narcissist. This may be the most dangerous and painful category. This is the narcissist who has glimpses of awareness. They know something is off. They recognize their patterns in flashes of clarity. They feel the consequences of their behavior. They may even temporarily say the right things, but they refuse to change. Why? Because change requires ego death, and ego death feels like annihilation. So they choose the familiar, control instead of vulnerability, domination instead of reflection, deflection instead of accountability, charm instead of responsibility, reactivity instead of introspection. This narcissist is fully capable of understanding what they are doing, but chooses the path of comfort over growth. This group creates the most confusion for empaths. because their moments of clarity look like awakening. But awakening never sustains without accountability. Level 3, the malignant or predatory narcissist. They're malicious, manipulative, consciously exploitative. This is the smallest group, but the most destructive. These individuals are fully aware of their manipulation. They derive power from control, chaos, and emotional dominance. They do not seek love. They seek leverage. They do not want connection. They want possession. Their cruelty is intentional. Their strategies are calculated. Their lack of empathy is profound. These individuals do not want to awaken. They want to win. They want control. They want supply. Their relationship to others is transactional, not emotional. The empath must exit this dynamic entirely. It will never evolve. Level 4, the awakening narcissist. Rare, they're vulnerable, inconsistent, capable of transformation. This is the group that gives the empath hope. And sometimes that hope is real, but often short-lived. This narcissist experiences genuine self-awareness at times. They show remorse. They reflect. They express vulnerability. They seek insight. They acknowledge patterns. They crave change. But here is the truth. Awareness is not embodiment. Insight is not transformation. Desire is not accountability. Most awakening narcissists touch the edge of transformation and then retreat. Why? Because sustained awakening requires the one thing their ego cannot maintain: consistent responsibility for their emotional world. Awakening requires humility. Humility threatens the false self, and the false self was built to protect them from emotional collapse. Some narcissists do awaken, but it is rare, and the process is long, painful, and often requires a spiritual or psychological crisis to break the ego structure. Why most narcissists will never awaken. The empath must understand this truth without bitterness, only with clarity. Most narcissists will not awaken because their identity depends on staying defended. Their ego fears exposure more than it desires love. Accountability feels like annihilation. Their nervous system cannot tolerate shame. They confuse control with connection. They externalize every problem to avoid internal collapse. They never develop the emotional musculature to self-reflect. They rely on the false self for survival. They cannot risk the vulnerability required for growth. They mistake manipulation for relational skill. They believe the problem is always outside themselves. They misinterpret your empathy as confirmation that their tactics work. And perhaps the most important truth, awakening requires a willingness to feel deeply. The narcissist built their entire identity to avoid exactly that. The empath sees the potential, but the narcissist fears the process required to embody it. Empathy must be paired with discernment. Compassion must be paired with truth. Love must be paired with sovereignty. You cannot awaken someone who built their life around avoiding awakening. You cannot heal someone whose ego depends on denying the wound. You cannot mirror truth to someone who refuses to look into the mirror. Your role is not to be their catalyst. Your role is to honor the soul contract and recognize when it is complete. Some narcissists will awaken in this lifetime. Most will not. That is not your burden. That is their path. Your awakening comes from seeing clearly, not from holding hope for someone who refuses to hold themselves. If any part of this series brought clarity or inspiration, please like it and share it with someone who needs this message. Your engagement amplifies the light and helps this work reach the people who are ready for it. Subscribe to my channel to stay connected and follow the 3-part series on the empath narcissist entanglement. Let's heal our hearts, embody our sovereignty, and rise to the next level of humanity together.